Dirty Birds, what's up? And welcome to another edition of Falcons Final Whistle presented by Zaxby's. I'm your host, Will McFadden. I'm joined by Tori, McElhaney, and Terrin Waack. We are here to break down the 6th training camp practice for the Atlanta Falcons, the 2nd with pads on. And Terrin, I thought it was a great day for the defense out there.
Yes, it was. She said yes. I didn't know we were going to jump right into it. I'm here ready with my wacky Wednesday comment about how the power was out this morning, and you're like, defense. I said, oh, God. Skirt. Defense did.
Yeah, you got to keep your head on a swivel.
Did look really good today.
As good as we've seen them look, I would say.
Yes, for sure. They were in the backfield a lot. There were 6 sacks on the day, 4 against Michael Penix Jr., 2 against Kirk Cousins, but fret not, people. They are still in their red non-contact jerseys. So you cannot bring the boys behind the big boys down.
Legally.
Running off a straight caffeine because of the power outage, but we're here, so that's why I'm kind of buzzing a bit.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the power outage. This morning, as I'm sure a lot of people in Atlanta know, I personally, even where I live, my lights kind of flickered. My power went on and off a couple times last night. And no, that didn't happen to you. Happened to me. No. And so I woke up this morning like 6 o'clock, and I had already had a couple text messages that, hey guys, no power at Flowery Branch, like at all. And then it's like, we're just going to have practice in the morning. We're going to switch some things around. Practice starts at 8:15. So
from 9:30.
Yeah, we went from 9:30 to 8:15.
Hour and 15-minute difference.
Right. Fortunately, we were already kind of planning on being here super early because Terry Fontenot was supposed to do his training camp press conference at 8:55. Yep. So it ended up being okay. Power came back on right when I got here around like 7:30-ish. And everything's been working very smoothly since. But honestly, huge shout out to the entire ops team.
Oh, for sure.
Because it was a bit touch and go there, like almost all night. And we were talking to players after practice and coaches, and they were saying that a lot of them were, with their families, was about to come back to the dorms and or were already in the dorms when the power went out last night, maybe around like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And the coaches and everybody was like, if you can, go home, sleep in the air conditioning, and then come back this morning. So this is what we do. It's all about the getting guys where they need to be and making sure everything runs as smoothly as possible, even when the chaos happens. And this was a very, I think, chaotic, probably like 16 hours for this organization, but they handled it very well.
If you didn't have the original schedule, you wouldn't have known that anything changed.
It
still operated.
I think that's a great insight. Yeah. I mean, it was like, because football is very much an exercise in like chaos, right? Yeah. It's like you come up with a plan and then the plan goes right out the window as soon as the ball snapped. So it was kind of nice to, I think, have a little bit of a test case like this happen in training camp where, you got to kind of get everybody together and be like, what are we going to do? What can we do? And let's just make a new game plan, especially for kind of like a new staff as well, to just see how they kind of handle that situation. We're going to talk a lot more about the on-field defensive stuff, but today has been kind of a day, I think, defined as much by great defense as by conspiracy theory talk.
Oh, my gosh. It really has. So it came out today and it was Kirk Cousins who told this story, but apparently there are these things that they're doing called rookie presentations. And as Kirk is talking about these rookie presentations, it's this PowerPoint that the rookies have to put together, and I assume it's like they'll go one by one.
Are you guys good at PowerPoint? I'm
No.
bad at PowerPoint.
No.
I haven't done a PowerPoint since high school.
Here's the thing.
There we go.
We call them here decks.
Yeah, right? When did that happen?
Everyone calls it a deck, and I'm like, what in the world is a deck?
I think of those like flip decks, like those little like finger skateboards.
Okay, wow, that's
a throwback.
That is
right?
really a throwback. That is not where
I
know exactly what you're talking about.
If you can't see,
everyone in middle school is just like, yeah. Not
that I ever actually had any.
Yes. So, anywho, back to the conversation at hand. We are 100% running off of coffee.
We
today.
really are.
But the PowerPoints. So apparently what happened is there's this power ranking also going around about conspiracy theories.
But like why?
And which I think is hilarious. I know Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce have one point or another talked on their podcast about like how it's like a thing that there are many people in locker rooms across the league that believe the earth is flat. conspiracy.
You got a lot of time to talk about stuff.
You do, especially now because you don't have
Training
your families
camp,
around. Like you're trying to just have conversations with people. You're just passing time, and it's so funny because now this power rankings of conspiracy theories, and now they're having the rookies go through these conspiracy theories. And apparently JD Bertrand had a really good PowerPoint deck for a presentation. However, we have asked multiple people and no one is willing to tell us what the PowerPoint conspiracy was about. And
that's a conspiracy in and of itself.
Exactly. I'm going to let him keep it private,
Yeah. When it comes to conspiracy theories, sometimes that's maybe the best practice.
And when everybody is like, nah, we're not going to share that publicly, I'm like, all right.
Yeah. It's either amazing or
it's
like a little, we should keep it in the dark. So in honor of kind of learning about that, I asked both Tori and Terrin to come up with what their favorite conspiracy theory is. I'll be honest, it's not something I think about very often. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, so I had to Google popular conspiracy theories. But it did remind me of one that I have heard that I definitely was like, yep, that's my favorite one. And it is the birds are not real conspiracy theory.
Have you ever seen a baby pigeon? This was something we were talking about in the media room after Kirk. That pigeons specifically are government entities, robots.
This is a thing.
Have you ever seen a baby pigeon?
I tend to avoid birds.
I don't know what makes a baby bird versus a regular bird.
Size?
Sure, but a pigeon, I don't know enough about pigeons, I think, to be able to just clock something immediately.
My pigeon lore is not up to date.
Yeah, in real life and be like, that's something's up with that pigeon. That's a small pigeon. That must be a baby pigeon, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Mine, because my future brother-in-law, so my sister's fiance, really big fan of Bigfoot. And I have had many conversations with him and also my sister about Bigfoot. So I guess I'm going to just say favorite conspiracy theory, just because I know so much about Bigfoot lore, is that would be mine.
I believe the current accepted nomenclature is Sasquatch.
Oh,
I think Bigfoot is demeaning to the exceptionally footed. Yes.
Beast. Yeah. Exceptionally footed beast. I love that.
Oh my God.
I see what you have on your computer.
We're going to start calling Bradley Pinion the exceptionally footed beast.
Oh, that's a good one. We should tell him that.
All right, Terrin, what you got?
So I was going to do the Earth is flat. Shout out to Mike the Situation on Jersey Shore because he believes the Earth is flat.
And Kyrie Irving.
Mike the Situation.
Terrin's Jersey Shore greater than.
Point.
Yes, great.
So I was thinking about that one. But then I did have to do a little Google. Also, did you know people think Princess Diana's murder and then JFK's assassination?
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
But
welcome to the world of conspiracy theories, Terrin.
I don't like it. I really don't like it. But now I remembered one. Avril Lavigne.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because I grew up her biggest fan, and I genuinely think I'm going to go see her in Alpharetta on September 3rd.
Plug. Avril.
Avril, if you for some reason are listening to Falcons Final Whistle, find me. I was a big fan of Skater Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Case in point, the decks.
What decks? Oh, the flip decks.
Yeah.
We have done this every single podcast. I swear, somebody makes a callback to 2 minutes ago, and the other person is just like,
Short-term
what?
memory.
What's happening? Yeah.
But don't they believe, I don't even know the conspiracy that much, but don't they believe Avril Lavigne died?
Yeah.
And now it's her
in
twin?
2003 and was replaced by a
body
I was
double.
looking up
Will
conspiracy
knows.
theories.
Yeah.
Man. What?
The body double. There's also the one
double.
that the moon landing is fake.
Yep.
That was something that even in my middle school, my middle school social studies teacher was showing us photos to kind of try and
it won't wave.
Well, it's also gravity and the lack of gravity and
The flag wouldn't wave.
Right, but
and
I don't.
Also, why is there a photographer?
Also, if you watch New Girl, Nick Miller, he's like, the shadows are off. The shadows are off. Anybody know that reference?
No.
Yeah.
No?
I love New Girl.
Okay. Let's talk about football.
Okay.
You're the one who brought this up. You brought this up.
Oh my God. Also, the reptile
are
people in the government.
wild.
That's a fun conspiracy theory as well. But what is not a conspiracy is that the defense looked amazing
I can't look at
on
this.
Wednesday.
I can't look at this.
I think it was the best day for the Atlanta defense, probably so far of training camp.
Dominant defense.
Right?
Yeah.
Dominant defensive performance. I mean, it wasn't to say that was a bad thing for the offense because the offense still made some plays, but That's kind of been the case, I think, all of training camp. Like when we've talked about the offense, it's not that the defense has played poorly, but you could really feel kind of the urgency and the togetherness, I think, of the defense today.
We were talking to Jimmy Lake after practice ended just about the intensity and everything, and he kind of even referenced this idea of like when the pads come on, sometimes the defense has the upper hand on the first couple of days because they're so jazzed and so excited about doing their job, and I really do think that we're seeing that. And something that was really interesting as well was the way that I felt like they were getting some guys into the rotation a little bit more. Troy Anderson what's hilarious is literally this time yesterday, I'm making this comment about Nate Landman has made himself like indisposable and
Troy Anderson has made himself indisposable.
And then now here we are 24 hours later and Troy Anderson was all over the field today.
This is why it's a problem. This is why it's or not a problem, but like
a good problem to have.
Yeah.
A good problem to have.
Right.
As Jimmy Lake has said, as Raheem Morris has said, as all of those linebackers have said, it's a good problem to have, and finding ways to utilize them in the best way is like gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. You felt a certain intensity in the secondary. I thought there were a lot of really, really good plays by the secondary. AJ Terrell and Clark Phillips particularly had, I think, there were two people who had a really, really good morning.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Terrin, what'd you see?
Well, we just hit on the defense a lot, but as you're like naming those on the defense who did well, I also like recognize people who showed up the defense a little bit, or not showed up, but like did well against them, I guess. Mainly when you said AJ Terrell, and not to throw him under a bus or anything, but somebody, oh gosh, Jesse?
Not to Regina George him.
Regina George him. Where did my story
I wonder
go?
if anybody would know that reference.
A Mean Girls reference?
Yeah.
I would hope so.
I would too.
Is that a conspiracy theory? Jesse Matthews had, Yeah, he had a really good catch over AJ Terrell. I had to look it up. I kept mixing up him and James Washington. Both just joined.
Yeah.
But he had a really good catch over Terrell, who's obviously the starter, and Matthews just joined the team yesterday. And afterwards, Raw was like, hey, good catch, young man. I don't know why I gave him an accent.
Right, yeah.
Young man.
When did he become like British?
It's the Love Island UK in me.
Right, yeah. No, it was a really, really good day too for Darnell Mooney. I thought he had a really good couple of catches. There was one that Kirk even talked about afterwards that I know we all saw, where it was really deep ball and it was a little bit underthrown.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
And Darnell did such a good job of tracking it and coming back to it, and where the DB in coverage, who I can't remember exactly who it was.
I've got it. Keep talking.
Yeah, but it was like he was in coverage and wasn't as in tune with the pass as what Darnell was, and he comes back to it, makes this really great grab. And there was also one
it was against Mike Hughes. But what Darnell did really well on the play was kind of change his speed without indicating to Mike Hughes that he was changing his speed.
Yep.
So he decelerated in a way that the defensive back didn't anticipate until the ball was there and it was too late.
Yeah.
And that was really savvy.
It was a really good catch. And then I think Ray McLeod had a one-handed grab in the back of the end zone in one-on-ones. That was, to me, that was a really fun moment in one-on-ones.
We've been talking so much about Ray McLeod as like the third wide receiver, but Rondale Moore actually took his first reps with the first team today. So...
I mean,
battle lines.
Yeah,
battle lines.
I do think that because like with Clark Phillips making the plays that he made today, and again, Mike Hughes hasn't been bad, but like we touched on the Darnell Mooney play right there. It's like, and then talking about just the various like battles that we are seeing. Today was a good day for the competition of maybe the guys that we hadn't been talking about. Even Troy Anderson, to kind of like start this segment. I know that he's not a number 2 on the depth chart because they're all like 1A, B, C.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it was kind of almost like the Empire Strikes Back version of training camp, where all the guys we have been highlighting, some of the other names now started to make some plays.
And even in that, like there is still this like intense level of competition where Jimmy Lake is talking about Clark Phillips and Mike Hughes, and he made the comment, he was like, yes, we are really excited about what Clark Phillips did today. We're really excited about who he is. And also he made mention that, you know, as Clark Phillips is kind of cross-training inside and outside, he said, he was like, I really like what he's been able to do in the slot. And he made mention of that specifically, pointing that out. But when he was talking about this competition, he was like, the words that he used was like, Mike Hughes has earned the right to play the reps that he's playing.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long way in
I respect that.
what ultimately happens when we do get to week 1 with this competition.
And I think it makes a lot of sense if you boil it down to something as simple as last year, Clark Phillips, as a rookie, was in more of a man-based defense. Like Ryan Nielsen's defense, at times, like it would hang the corners and the safeties out to dry because it is mano-a-mano and you're relying on your athleticism. Exactly. And you're like trusting your technique, but you're trusting your athleticism, and you don't really have to do too much thinking. In fact, like you don't want to be thinking out there. And in a zone defense, it's a lot more read and react. It's a lot more letting stuff happen in front of you and then deciding what to act upon and what maybe could be dressing to get you to act upon something where really they want to go behind you. And I think that when you look at Mike Hughes just being in the league now for, closer to a decade than not, that experience probably does help him earlier on, where Clark Phillips is going into his second year, but his first year in kind of like this zone defensive look at the NFL level. So again, like the signs we saw from Clark Phillips today and have seen over the last few days, the kid can play.
Yeah.
Like he definitely is going to have a role on this defense. It may just be taking a little bit of time for that mental side of things to catch up to where he is playing instinctually, not thinking, and then I would expect we really do start to see him get some time with the first team.
Well, and something to keep in mind is we talk about these battles. It's not like Clark is, okay. He might. You never know what can happen. But it's not like Clark Phillips is going to get cut.
No.
So, it's not one or the other in these situations.
Yeah.
We were just talking about a starter. But then again, that can change game by game. So it's important to keep that perspective, too. We're not just pining these men against each other.
I mean,
survival of the fittest.
This point last year, we were all certain that Jeff Okudah was going to be playing 17 games as the Falcons' number 2 corner, right? And unfortunately, that didn't end up happening. But then you did get Mike Hughes and Clark Phillips, who started games late in the year. So things change from now and December, certainly.
For sure. But it's amazing to see the competition nonetheless.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why the competition is important, because it builds the depth that will then be important come December.
These are good problems.
Exactly.
Good problems. You want options.
And I think we can label him a good problem, certainly for opposing offenses this season, it looks like, is Bralen Trice. I mean, man, he has gotten off to a pretty strong start in camp. I know we talked about him a little bit yesterday, but today I thought he picked up right where he left off and looked really strong out there. He talked to us after practice. Terrin, what did you kind of take away from that conversation?
Something that's really sticking out with him personally, and then it stuck out to me too, is how comfortable he is. He says he's still learning and whatnot, but he's like, honestly, day one, like, I came in and I was ready. And I think that, I don't want to say doesn't go normally with rookies like that, but I think you can see that confidence. And one thing he was asked, like, do you feel like you've deserved to play with the ones or something along those lines? And he was like, I don't care who, like, I don't look at it that way.
Yeah, he said ones or fours. Like,
I'm up for whatever.
Yeah.
I thought he spoke very maturely on everything. He still admits to having to learn, and he is learning. But I'm excited for him, to see him.
To me, sometimes he doesn't feel like a rookie to me. Sometimes when I watch him play, I don't feel that way. And I honestly don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to... Maybe it's like his instincts are there. You talk about guys being instinctual.
That's what Arnold Ebiketie was saying yesterday about Bralen.
Yeah.
He's very instinctual, and it all comes so natural to him.
Right.
Must be nice.
So I do almost wonder if like that's what it is. But honestly, he's somebody that I know we talked a lot about, yesterday, and we're going to talk more about him later on. But he really is somebody that I don't know if I had him high enough on my list of guys who could come in 2024 and be key playmakers for this defense.
Right away, too, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really curious to kind of interact with him after practice today, because certainly at Washington, right? Like, he's
he
team
was sweating.
captain. He's like,
you weren't talking about that.
No, he was just a big man on campus, I feel like, for that team, right?
Yes, he was.
So,
his first reaction when he walked up to us was, "Oh, it's hot."
He was
like, "I am not
sweaty.
used to this. This is not like Washington," so that's why I say it.
But
The first,
he handled
his
it like a pro.
first reaction was that. So that's why when you're like, "Yeah, it was good to talk to. I was like, oh gosh, he was unwell.
The man was sweating. That is so funny.
Yeah, he was having a fever dream out there.
I think he was like stepping away from us too, as we're like, wait, we can't hear you.
Yeah, he was. Like, the heat has been. It's the humidity, honestly.
Yeah.
But everybody listening to this is well aware of the humidity here in Georgia. What they may
wrong.
not be aware of is what Terry Fontenot had to say at his press conference today.
Nice.
So thank you so much. Look at segues. But I wanted to hear from you, Tori, just kind of what Terry had to say today, because it's the first time since the draft that he's spoken to the media. So, I mean, a lot of topics to cover. What stood out to you?
I thought it was really interesting. We got really into the weeds about this conversation versus the players that you have and the holdover personnel that you have, in comparing and contrasting it to the philosophy that Raheem Morris and his staff wanted to bring in, and how you marry those two together, and the conversations that I think had to be had across the front office, which has been here almost completely intact, save, for a few faces here and there, since 2021 with Raheem's staff, which, yes, there are still pieces of that staff, especially, offense and obviously Jerry Gray, that are holdovers from Arthur Smith's coaching staff. But what Terry was talking about what the last probably 6, 7, 8 months have been like with these conversations and getting everybody on the same page, and why it was so important that they got some of the guys that they got over the last 3 seasons that have this versatility. Because at some point, that versatility is going to be tested. Whether or not it's in the scheme that you've had for years and you've had the same coaching staff, like, everything's going to evolve.
Yeah.
And things are going to need to be taking a step in one way or the other. For this 53-man roster and figuring out how you take what worked from like an Arthur Smith scheme and standpoint, Ryan Nielsen, Dean Pease, like what was to now what is. He talked a lot about that process, and I found it very, very interesting that even though there's like all this talk of position flexibility and versatility, that it was something Raheem has been very adamant that there is this level of role clarity, even in all of that. It's kind of like the other side of the same coin, where you're talking about like, oh, this guy can do this, and this really, really well. But like, when you boil it down, what are we asking of him? Who do we want him to be? Yeah. And that was a big part of the conversation about where this team was versus where it is. And he was also asked, and this was kind of the point that I kind of was like, okay, we're getting something here. He was asked why he felt like Arthur Blank on Tuesday felt optimistic about what was going on in the building, what product is going to be out on the field in 2024. And he was as honest as I think Terry has been. Not that Terry's not always honest, but it felt very like
maybe
a very
revealing,
very honest answer, where he said, I'm going to be completely honest. You look at Kirk Cousins out there and the level of play that you're getting from the quarterback position, which is arguably one of the most important positions in all of sports, you feel that. And because you feel that, you feel a certain sense of optimism about what is being done. And then you have Michael Penix Jr. in there as well. It kind of adds to this almost like safety precaution, a safety net almost of that position, and not feeling like you have what was over the last 2 years. And I think that was kind of a glimpse into Terry's thought process and feelings about the work that's been done this offseason to absolutely shore up the quarterback position and how much that weighed on them over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I do think that, like, certainly from a team and player standpoint, right, when you look to Kirk Cousins in the huddle and you see somebody who has been to Pro Bowls, who has done this for 13, 15 years, like has been to playoff games, has played with some of the very best players in the league today, there's just a level of confidence there, right? That it's going to be like, hey, it's the fourth quarter. This guy's done it so many times. We're going to do it again. And he's going to be able to sit there and say, like, here's how we do this. I've done this, follow my lead, and we'll get it done, and we'll go out of here with a W. So, yeah, I mean, I think when it's what we've been saying this whole time, like the feeling out there during practices just feels a little elevated. It feels a little more polished, a little smoother, because
polished is the right word.
Some of the passing plays, right, they're landing. They're hitting their mark, and they're hitting it on time, and it looks a little more effortless, and it just it feels better than it did.
Right, and even on a day where it wasn't perfect.
Yes.
That was something that was very evident today more than any other day was we've been praising Kirk Cousins and the pass catchers over the last few days because they've looked so good. Things have been so accurate. Today wasn't really a super accurate day for Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix Jr. for one reason or the other. Call it, the power going out, practices being moved, things happening, what they're being asked to do out on the field. Whatever the circumstance may be, this wasn't a perfect practice. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of things that Kirk was like, every day I want it to be perfect, but that's not possible. And every day you're just trying to get to that point. But even in the miscues and the drops and the overthrows or the underthrows, the incompletions, there still is a level of accuracy in that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like it was just terrible. You know, it wasn't like it. And I think that just goes to show the expectation of quarterback play has risen significantly, because I'll be honest, if it was a practice like this in the last couple of years, I probably would have been like, oh, that was actually an okay practice. The defense did well, but now, because the expectation for what I have seen from Kirk Cousins, I'm like, oh, well, he missed on a few throws. We haven't seen that yet.
What was your breakdown, Terrin? Because you were tracking Kirk, and this is what I love hearing from him is even on a day, and Terrin will give us the number here in a second, where he was relatively accurate, he still is kind of pissed.
Right, exactly.
He's still kind of afterwards, that wasn't good enough.
What did he say?
And this is training camp, man.
Yeah. What did he say? We have in this building a healthy state of rage. And the point that he was trying to make in that was that no one's satisfied in that. And I think that was in the back of his mind today, where it's we were okay, we were fine, but we were not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, if Kirk has that rage simmering under he's like a demon Quaker, just all on the surface, you wouldn't expect it from him, and then just roiling underneath.
Right.
Oh boy. But Quaker. Cousins completed 18 of his 27 passes, just for the numbers out there. Yeah. And then Penix was 11 of 15.
Mm-hmm. See, that's not a bad day by the offense. And we're sitting here being defense looks great.
Wins. That's the point. Yes. That's the point, though. The fact that we are sitting here looking at those numbers, which are by all intents and purposes good numbers, being they could have been better. We've seen them be better. Yeah. That's the point.
The best I saw, though, from Kirk today wasn't even a pass. It was him getting out and running full speed to the sideline today. It was the fastest I've seen Kirk run. He didn't have a limp on the run.
You held your breath on that first takeoff.
I have held my breath a lot just because I'm supersticious. Yeah. Not even a little stitious. Very superstitious.
Well, it's funny because
conspiracy talk.
Yeah,
It's funny. Also, I love the Office reference. But we were talking to Kirk, and he said he talked about that moment where he took off and kind of scrambled for a few yards. And he's like, I feel like I'm moving well. Being able to do that instinctually matters because you're not thinking. Going back to your original point, you're not thinking, you're doing. And your body's able to handle that. That's a clear sign of progress. He said, though I will say that Coach Rye probably did give a little bit of a heart attack in that moment. He said, but rest assured, everything's good. And at this point, I thought, for those watching or listening, I'm just reading his quote. He said, I have on a red jersey right now, so when you get hit, you have to be strong enough to really be able to stand underneath the weight of not just you, but a D lineman coming at you. And that's the added addition of having pads on is guys potentially coming up on you, and you're kind of having to draw back and absorb a hit, even though they're not hitting him right now. But
bodies are just colliding.
Right. Yeah. He's just thinking about it and thinking about I feel good about the Achilles. That if that were to happen, I would be okay.
That's why that's such a huge hurdle. And it's why you also understand, I think, a little bit more about Kyle Pitts last year.
Yeah.
All of this stuff when you hear directly from Kirk Cousins. And there was a moment today where I saw James Smith-Williams kind of collapsing around the pocket and Kirk just kind of felt him behind him and instinctually just kind of picked his feet up and scooted away because it's dude, I don't want anything to happen.
Nothing on the feet.
But because it's so important not to be thinking out there, I almost wonder, and this is totally me speculating, never having talked to a player, but I almost wonder if because they think about something, and that is so uncommon for them out on the field, if that's an element to the rehab process as well, is like you have to trust that injury. And we have heard players say that many times, like trust that injury. So when Kirk is like, I didn't even think about that, I just instinctually reacted and did that, and now I know I don't have to think about it again because it can just hold up under scrutiny. So I thought it was a good day, like just all the way around. So let's go ahead and wrap this up with our camp champ. I think we have a lot of potential options. So Terrin, let's start it off with you. Who stood out there?
Shoot. I wasn't ready to go first.
I'll go first.
All right, Tori.
Clark Phillips.
Okay.
I really enjoyed seeing the intensity that he brought to practice today. Originally, and this is interesting, I went up to Will about halfway through practice, and I was like, I already got my camp champ. It's AJ Terrell. Like, I feel good about that. I think he's broken up a few passes. He's looked really good today, blah, 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 blah. And about that time, Clark Phillips like punches a ball out and has a recovery, and then a couple plays later on 11-on-11, he is absolutely like jumping around and using his small but athletic frame to jump like 7-8 feet in the air, fully lay out to break up a pass, and it comes up incomplete. He had, talking about like good days, the cornerbacks in general, I thought brought it today and in a way that I felt was notable. They were getting their hands on a lot of balls, breaking up a lot of passes, getting kind of in the way of the throws just in general. But I thought Clark Phillips, to me, edged out AJ Terrell a little bit just because there was an element of flash to Clark Phillips today.
I'm going to stick with AJ because I have in my notes 24 erased 1 just in that one-on-one drill. And Darnell Mooney has had a good camp. Like, he had a good practice day today. This is just how good AJ was, is in that one-on-one drill. He just jammed him at the line of scrimmage, did not let up. And then when the ball was thrown, he was just kind of like, boop. Yeah. Like, it was such a clear, and again, it's a one-on-one drill down at the goal line. Like, so there's not a lot of space to operate. But again, just he followed that up every single time I watched him. I was like, AJ just looks confident. Like, he's in that Grady Jarrett zone or the Jake Matthews zone where it's like, I just need to do periodic checks on him because I know that play in and play out, like, there's a level of consistency. He knows what he's doing. He's playing with confidence, and he's a really, really good football player. So AJ just shined today to me. So for that reason, he's my camp champ.
I'm going with Bralen Trice because I realize we keep talking about him, and he hasn't been the camp champ yet. And I'm going to give him his flowers today because he did have a sack and he weathered the heat and spoke to us. I mean, that's not a reason to make a camp champ, but I'm just still thinking about that.
I mean, if that's the requirement, then we're all camp champs.
Win.
Yeah. No, we're not.
I like that.
He just keeps improving. Like, we keep talking about him, but we haven't made him the guy yet. So this is me being like, all right, time for Bralen Trice to get his honors.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, exactly. Like Stop talking about it. Do it.
Tori, I don't think I put you on the spot yet when it comes to a three-way tie for camp champ. So has anybody swayed you, or are you holding strong on the 22 camp?
Well, considering that AJ Terrell was my camp champ until 11-on-11,
I lose again.
Like, I would be okay giving AJ Terrell the day today, but I do stand firm on my Clark Phillips pick. But that's okay. If I'm the one that has to decide, I'm going to go between Bralen Trice and AJ Terrell. I'm going to go with AJ Terrell.
One day, Bralen.
One day.
I just, just
kicking the can down the road.
I want to make the rookie earn it. It's got to, I feel like the Raheem mentality, which, speaking of Raheem, he almost could have been today's camp champ because I think his coaching during the one-on-one drills was so impressive to me. Like, there was specifically...
With Casey Washington.
Yeah, you want to describe it?
Sure. Casey, he caught the ball. It was from... Michael Penix Jr. was in the goal line. They were just doing one-on-ones. I don't know who he was up against, but the point was he still caught it. And so Raheem gave credit where credit is due and, like, applauded Casey and kept calling him young rook and whatnot. But then he's like, okay, next time when you're coming off the line of scrimmage, do it slower so you have more room to run.
Because he ran out of bounds. Yeah. So Casey caught the ball, which, it was a good catch. It was a good route ultimately, but Raheem was kind of like,
close.
You're out of bounds. That doesn't count. He was like, good catch. Out of bounds doesn't count. So his kind of coaching point was you ran out of room in the back of the end zone. You made this awesome, nice little double move, but give yourself a little bit more of a cushion next time and don't fire out of that line of scrimmage as fast as you possibly can. Buy yourself a little bit more time and maybe
buy yourself and the quarterback a little bit more time.
Exactly.
Right?
But because like the quarterback has to be involved in that as well.
Right.
They got to know what you're doing. But then there was a later rep with a different wide receiver, and Raheem was kind of like, hey, Casey, do that. You see how he varied his route tempo kind of at the beginning of the route? Like, yeah, Dylan Drummond. Thank you very much. It was just like perfect an encapsulation of, I think, Raheem using examples, but also on a good play. Like for a rookie, that was a good play. He was just out of bounds. Yeah. And like, so it doesn't count. And so Raheem's going to call it like he sees it.
Also, did y'all hear what Raheem said to Jesse Bates when he was going up against Kyle Pitts?
No.
I did, but I can't recall. So
it was Jesse and Kyle, which is a great matchup in and of itself. It's the money maker, as they say. But Kyle, he won the rep, and
maybe a little push off.
And maybe a little bit. We'll let it slide. But Raheem yells from like the other side of the end zone about Jesse's Madden rating, and essentially was like, the Madden rating won't help you out here, man. And it was such a typical Raheem comment.
He's savage.
He is
savage.
And it was
the number one safety in the game. Put some respect on that man.
It was so funny, and I think obviously Jesse and Ra have a good relationship already. We've already talked to him about the respect that he has for Ra. But that was such a very organic comment, and I think it was just truly, it was funny. Yeah. It made me laugh, and I think it made Jesse laugh too.
Right,
and jaw would have dropped.
The spirits are high. I think with Raheem, even when he's cutting, it's kind of so funny that it's like, what
I said, like good. Raheem's love language is if he's not making fun of you, he doesn't like you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm writing AJ Terrell down for today's Camp Champ. So congratulations to AJ. So far, we do not have a repeat, which is interesting. We still have a lot of camp left to go, and we will be here breaking it all down for you guys. But that will do it for today's a little bit longer than usual episode. It was just kind of a jam-packed day. Yeah. And we will be
Conspiracy theories.
Thursday. The players will be out there for kind of like a real jog, walk through, no media availability. So we're going to be dark on Thursday, but we do have an awesome episode lined up with Caden Ellis for you all. So don't worry, we do still have a podcast coming tomorrow to whet your appetite.
And spoiler alert, Caden may have agreed with a certain someone about their Camp Champ. So,
we
got to check that out.
Who knows if that'll be
it's not me.
Put into the public record or not. We shall
crossed.
see. But yeah, so stay tuned for the Caden Ellis podcast. And then Friday, we have the practice at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tickets are $5. Come on out if you want to see everybody that we have been talking about, because this team has been really a lot of fun to watch so far. But please like, subscribe, check us out on YouTube. Let all your friends know ahead of the season that we are here and we are breaking down everything Atlanta Falcons. So for Tori, McElhaney, and Terrin Waack, I am Will McFadden. This has been Falcons Final Whistle, presented by Zaxby's. We will see you all tomorrow with our Caden Ellis interview.